Hey guys, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. My name is Crown, and today I'm going to read you some very interesting stories that I hope that you're gonna love. And now, without further ado, let's go! So, I had an interesting interaction some years ago involving a bicycle. Something that happened in the last 5 years. I have this love for them and they are less stressful to drive. I went to a local junk as I love second-hand shops. I walked through it like I normally would, picking out things I like. And then in one of those awestruck, tear-forming moments, I notice a beautiful yellow bike. I walk straight to it. It's beautiful steel frame type. So I start running my hands over. Yeah, the shop owner spots me and chuckles. For sure he found himself a buyer for the bike. The bike itself is in okay shape. The wheels are bent/mangled, the frame has seen better days, and the derailleur is destroyed. I buy the bike not knowing how much trouble it was. I pay in cash, get a bill of sales and receipt. Cause, well, I'm meticulous. Like someone with a classic car, I start restoration. After dusting/cleaning it further, I find spots where the former cut-off decals were removed. Found out I got an even more awesome bike, a Gen 1 mountain bike, failure in sales but rare, that came from an originally racing bicycle company. I don't really care about it in the sense of preserving the original paint, but I want to give it the best I can. I do buy as many original parts as I can find since I've never worked on a specialty brand like this. The wheels are easy to find, the derailleur was pain in my butt to find, but I found a company that made a similar model. Everything else was standard that we have now. Thanks to a friend, he gives it a quick touch-up paint and gloss. I add a classic half-frosted twin basket track and it looks classic. I rode it for weeks enjoying it. Finally installing the awesome decals. Wanna be fabricated but looked real enough. The bike looked like an in-the-day classic from afar, maybe costing a few hundred, but it was worthless to any collector when you walked close. All in all, it took maybe 3 to 4 months to repair and restore. Now, there was a prior incident to this one involving a homeless guy trying to argue that any of the bikes on the bus rack were his. So I took to carrying a copy of the bill of sales and kept the emails from the parts I bought. On one particular night, I'm running an errand and stop at the 7-Eleven for snacks. I put stuff in my side saddlebag I wear and a few things in the rear ones. This dude walks with his buddy Dr. Livesey style toward me. He gives me a shove, telling me to get off his bike. I ask him what he means and he starts pointing out that I was riding his tricked-out classic bike that I had stolen. He says he and his buddy spotted it and had to take it back. I ask him to tell me when it was stolen. He said it didn't matter. And his buddy then interjects, saying that the last time he saw it was about 2-3 weeks ago. Total nonsense. I'd had it for 6 months by now. Meanwhile, the dude's telling me I'm going to give it back to him. I'm gonna be sorry for stealing it, and he shoves me again. I'm guessing the clerk saw this all going on, and the local PD walked up. He asked for the whole story. The dirtbag says, "Yeah, this guy needs to shut up. He stole my very expensive ride. I saw it and came over to claim it." I interject, "Oh yeah? When did I steal it?" I say sarcastically. He mumbles something but neither me nor the cop can make it out. I then tell the cop about acquiring it, working on it. So the cop directs his partner to do 2 things. Check our IDs and then check for any stolen bike claims. He turns to us. The cop turns to the dude, the dirtbag, and asks him when he lost it. He says a couple weeks ago, and his buddy parrots the answer. I say to the effect of, "You know what? I'm willing to give it back to him. In fact, I'm willing to give it back the way I found it. I'll just remove the parts I added along with the decals and add-ons. Of course, you'll have to take the junk parts too." The dude smirks like he'd won. "No, you'll leave them on as compensation," he says to me. So I say, "But first, officer, What if I could prove I acquired it fair and square, and the parts for it as well? The cop tells me to prove it then. I reach for my wallet in my pocket, moving slowly to not alarm the cop. I fish out my bill of sale from the second-hand shop. I grab my cell and show him the eBay emails/purchase history with confirmation for part spot. Now I smile. The cop rolls his eyes with a "why me" look. That dude's body backs off trying to exit the scene. The cop's partner stops him. The cop's partner tells us there were no stolen property report. The officer asked the guy one more time when it was stolen. Like a broken record, he said, "a few weeks ago." The cop tells me I can go ahead and pack up while he talks to the guy for a moment. The clerk goes inside the 7-Eleven, and I'm guessing he's getting a statement or footage from the clerk. The partner walks to the cop and whispers something. The dirtbag gets arrested for filing a false police report, but as I'm packing, I hear something added to that. I hear violation of probation being used. As he's being grabbed, the dirtbag is now screaming, "Dude, I was gonna pay you for it. I was gonna pay you for the bike. How are you going back on your deal?" I then ride home, tell my family, and laugh about it. So let me give you a funny story of how my family got rid of someone who overstayed his welcome every year. So I have an uncle. He is not by blood, he is by marriage. He's entitled and his favorite go-to line is, "Our family." He says it so calmly and so precisely. From what I know, he was a truck driver until he tweaked his back, so he can't do long hauls anymore or such. He started living off his pension, his social security, and then my aunt's social security. Years prior to the event, my family would do large Thanksgiving celebration. My uncle and his wife would travel in some kind of tiny camper RV to us. My uncle in previous years has had some rather bad habits no one cared for and still did. First, he had a drinking problem. Now, no one in my family is against it, no issue, but when you drink to excess and either party when there is no party or piss off everyone in a room, you're gonna answer to my dad. My uncle did both. He'd get drunk, dance party without music, and then make comments that rubbed everyone the wrong way. He'd say, "It's just between us, family." Second, after getting drunk or wanting to get more wasted, then he'd call his buddies he knew in town. He used to live here in my town, and they would go off and hit the local bars. And after a few weeks after my uncle got home, his buddies would come by looking for him and the bar tab he left behind. We get pestered every day for the money. And his answer to us? "Pay it off for me. We're family." Third, his obsession and sleeping arrangement. He was a die-hard NASCAR fan. We're talking eating, breathing, and living it. Every wall in his home, everything he wore, everything he ate or drank in. We're talking movie libraries and VHS recordings. He DVR'd any event he watched and missed. So while we all wanted to watch the Turkey Ball, Thanksgiving football, he tried to take over the TV to watch NASCAR replays, reruns, and you name it. If he got outvoted, he played them after. His sleeping was another issue. He picked my dad's comfy chair, sleep in it while NASCAR roared from the TV, full blasting as his white noise. He once even maxed out the speakers and soundbar. Fourth, the biggest. He overstayed. He stayed 2, sometimes 3 weeks. The week of Thanksgiving and the week after, and maybe one more for good measure. Saying that he can't make the trip or that he made plans locally or that he wanted to spend time with my aunt. Yeah, he left her to hang out with us. He'd go party. By the way, my aunt is the nicest ever. We decided that we wanted to make him want to leave. How, you ask? Mom, in the year 2011 to 2012, who cares, decided the easiest way was through salsa. Simply put, Mom had 3 balls of salsa set out, 2 for the family. 1 specifically for Uncle. What made this one special? Ghost pepper salsa. It looked like Mom's regular, but we knew the special Uncle ball. So we all gathered around my uncle. We'd eat our regular salsa. Meanwhile, we made sure that our uncle had his ball isolated to him. He doesn't feel anything for the first 2 bites, and we're encouraging him to eat more. Him, half drunk, doesn't realize he's the only one eating out of that bowl. You ever watch those old Looney Tunes cartoons when fire is spouting from someone's mouth? That's my uncle. You can't get rid of that heat with a drink nor water. You gotta grab milk. Sorry, uncle, we don't have any, nor offered. He was burning for the evening. Every Thanksgiving after, as soon as he gets a whiff of that ghost pepper salsa, he turns to his wife and says, "Hey folks, it's been a good visit, but we gotta go back home." Backstory. This happened when I was pregnant while in the Navy and got sent to a limited duty station. I essentially worked in an office full of pregnant/injured sailors with a couple supervisors who were absolute jerks to the pregnant women. Because we all got pregnant on purpose to avoid sea duty, of course. I happened to be the most senior pregnant woman there at that time. Senior enough to know my rights and to call out bullcrap. One of the things we were still required to do is PT, workout for you civilians, 3 times a week within the bounds of our physical limitations. For pregnant women, this typically meant no sit-ups, push-ups, or jumping jacks, no standing/walking for more than 15 minutes, and running at our own discretion. Typically, we were allowed to do our own thing as long as we did some kind of workout. Stretching and yoga bowls counted for the 30 to 45 minute duration. We had requested to be allowed to attend the gym's pregnancy yoga class, but were denied as it started at 10 a.m., middle of the workday, leaving us 30 unproductive minutes before lunch. For the most part, we women were left alone. There were some instances of being jerks, where the men in charge would decide that all of us, including the women that were 7 to 8 months pregnant, were able to do whatever harebrained activity they thought up, like running in the rain. I'm typically able to shut those down pretty quick. Needless to say, I wasn't very popular with our supervisors, but I always had documentation to back me up. As I entered my 3rd trimester, my anemia kicked in full gear, and I started getting super lightheaded and having tunnel vision. Regardless, I never called in late, always made it to work on time and did my yoga ball exercises during PT. One morning, I started having tunnel vision and slipped off my yoga ball. As I was sitting there trying to put my head between my legs, someone grabbed my shoulder and started yelling at me to get off my butt and do PT, along with some other crap about how being pregnant was not an excuse to sit down. Once my vision cleared, I stood up and faced the jerk, my direct supervisor, who was still giving me a hard time. I told him that I couldn't continue PT and would need to sit out the rest of the time, even producing my medical chit that stated that I was to be allowed to rest as needed. The jerk wasn't having it and told me I wasn't allowed to sit down during PT and that if I wanted to sit, I should go to medical. Cool. I asked one of the girls to take me to medical, and he started yelling about how I needed to get myself there. I looked him in the eye and said, "I'm about to pass out. I'm in no condition to drive. If you will not let someone else take me to medical, I am calling the ambulance now." This would launch an investigation, workplace injury and whatnot of course, and also involve paperwork for the jerk to do. So he relented but told me I had to find my own ride back to work. So I get driven to medical. I tell the OBGYN desk that I have been having dizzy spells and my supervisor wants me to PT. Yes, despite what is said on my medical chat, I get seen by a nurse, get some blood sucked out of me and ushered into the OBGYN department head's office. Apparently he had overheard me. I tell him what happened and the past attempt to force the pregnant women to do more than they are allowed to. Doc asks where we PT, and I tell him. He raises his eyebrow and proceeds to inform me that he is very familiar with the particular gym that we PT in, and that it was considered the hazard zone for pregnant women as there are a couple basketball courts next to the yoga balls. too close to contact sports, and also that it's in the manual that any command that requires a pregnant woman to be involved in any kind of organized PT, making us show up at a certain location at a certain time counts as organized. We're required to submit a PT plan for us through the chain of command. This involves going through 3 senior/master chiefs and 4 officers, including our captain, to be approved by the closest affiliated OPGYN department head, him, before they were allowed to subject us to any kind of PT. And then he proceeded to print out the specific pages of the instruction manual, highlight the pertinent parts, stamp, sign, and attach his business card to it, and told me to take that to my direct supervisor, the jerk, and have him call him if he had any questions or would like to show proof of such a PT plan for our command. He then wrote down his private extension on the back of another business card and told me to call him if I have any more problems. He also personally writes me a new medical chit that says that I should be allowed to rest at member's discretion and only perform work that member feels that she can safely perform. They were having me do things like move heavy boxes of paperwork and test live equipment. While all this was happening, my blood work had come back, showing stupidly low iron levels. So he had me increase my iron dosage and gave me a week off of work, just to make sure that that solves that problem. I get taken back to work by medical's duty driver. I walk into my office and immediately called into chief's office to get reamed out for being late and missing PT. Apparently the jerk had failed to inform him that he had ordered me to go to medical. The jerk stood in a corner with a crab-eating grin on his face. As the chief is giving me the knife hand, I pull out my paperwork from medical and place it on his desk. I then calmly proceed to explain how Captain OPGYN, department head, would like to see our command PT plan for pregnant women and that he had kindly attached his business card if they had any questions for him. Then jerk read the highlighted portions and went, "You would actually go this far?" I say, "I don't know what you mean. You told me to go to medical if I needed to sit down." So I did. This is what I was given at medical. Looks like there is naval instruction related to this that we should be following. Oh, by the way, here is a copy of my new physical limitations signed by Captain OPGYN department head and the medical leave for a week. If you don't have any more questions, I'll see you next Wednesday. From that day onwards, the pregnant women in my office were allowed to PT anytime during the workday that they wished to, as long as they did it 3 times a week. This meant that we were all now able to attend the 10 a.m. pregnancy yoga classes. Amazingly, work production did not go down because we are, surprise surprise, effective at getting our work done regardless of what time we started. Except now Jerk had to do all the heavy lifting and live electrical work until we got someone who did not have such limitations showed up. Because the women were all suddenly issued new medical chits signed by Captain OPGYN department head, specifically preventing them from doing such things, with relevant naval instruction highlighted and stapled to their chits. And now we have reached the end of today's stories. Thank you for watching and see you next time.